This is George Dionne of the Rock is George podcast, and this is a KNAC.com exclusive interview with Tommy Victor of Prong. If I knew absolutely nothing about Prong, how would you describe the band's music to me?
It's a fusion of several different styles. If you want to put it into one category, if you choose to do that, I would say it's groove metal. But I don't know about terms. There's a lot of New York hardcore in it. There's thrash metal. There's a little bit of old school metal, like doom metal in there, industrial metal, and there's a large tinge of alternative in there as well.
Absolutely. And on October 6th, you're releasing your 13th album, State of Emergency, on Steamhammer SPV. Your last studio album was 0 Days in 2017. You had an EP, Age of Defiance, in 2019. Have you been sitting on this studio album for a bit? I know some guys were holding off on releasing anything while we were in the middle of chaos.
Not at all. I had some personal things going on, good stuff. Then due to the pandemic, I wasn't really sure if I was going to continue for a while. Then we got offered a really good tour and we did it. I said, oh, maybe we'll do it again. I didn't even have a record deal. And then Napalm SPV, they contacted me and said, you want to do a record? So I said, all right, I mean, we should do one. And they said, when can you do it? I go, I have no idea. Then we were planning a move back to New York from Los Angeles. So that's when I decided, let me settle in out there back in New York, and then I'll do the record there. So then maybe that would be a good way to get a whole different energy going for the writing process. So all this stuff was written when I moved back to New York, and it's pretty fairly current. Records take a while to come out these days, so everything was written between June and June and August 2022.
Okay. You mentioned that you moved back to New York. I believe you wrote about moving back to New York, back NYC, if you want to talk a little bit about putting the lyrics together on that one.
Yeah, it's weird. The music was the first song I came up with for the new record. So I was like, well, this concept initially was going to be like a back to New York record. We later decided that we're going to do another record, and that one will be the Made in New York record. But I still wanted to do a lyric about that. And it was pretty stream of consciousness. I just said this way I was feeling about being back, and mainly the weather changes because living in LA, everything is the same all the time. I don't know if you're in Southern California. That's where KNAC is located. Traditionally, it was an Orange County thing, but it's always 75 and nice or whatever in Southern California. Then I move back to New York, and it's rainy, it's cold, and it's snowing, and then it gets nice one day, and the next day it's back to horrific weather and humidity. So that was the main thing. And then the people too is a radical difference. And then being back to the proximity of where I grew up, I think that was influential in the writing of the record, where I could get that feeling. Oh man, like I remember when I was growing up and listening to Volume 4 and this whole vibe that I had with the gloomy skies. And I think all that sort of in the Back to New York, Back NYC title, which is on the I don't know, I think it's track 10 on the record. Yeah.
This is your 13th album. I thought for sure you'd push for an October 13th release date and maybe have 13 songs on the album.
I never thought of that. I mean, quite frankly, I didn't know it was the 13th. There's been mysteries about that because some records weren't included in the 13. Like, so, oh, that was really an EP. I really have to count. And then there's a lot of weird releases in there, and then indie releases. So I haven't really sat down and decided if it really is the 13th. but the publicists have decided that, so I'll stick with that. I didn't really think any further of it. I'm terrible with that. People go, "This is the this year release," or "This is came." Some people are on top of their releases, when the dates were, how many years it was ago. I make a record, and I sort of, apart from the songs that rise to the top as being the more popular ones, I sort of forget about the records a little bit. So maybe down the line, when I'm in my rocking chair, I'll listen to them all and go, "Oh, okay." I very rarely pay any attention to them.
Well, let's talk about the album's title, State of Emergency, and the song that goes along with it. Sort of the world we're living in today, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it covers a few topics. On a personal level, the state of emergency, I think a lot of people are going crazy. So they're in crisis, and whether it's financially, that the song The Descent covers that. It's really a guy who's feeling inadequate from social media, thinking everybody's like doing better than him, and he's just like, I'm a useless piece of garbage. So that's what that song's about. The more he goes online, the more he realizes he's just useless. So it's not really true. He just feels that way. So that he's in a state of emergency. Then also the propaganda machine is always saying we're in a state of emergency. And then maybe worldwide, I think people in a popular culture feel they're in a state of emergency because they're constantly whining about everything, and everybody's in this victim mode. So it covers a lot of ground, that title. That's what I mean. The title came to me after looking at all the lyrics. So, and then there was one song that's how I sort of just mapped it out, where I would write all the songs and have like one song where I would leave open for the title track. And that was that song. I didn't have lyrics for that, but the other ones I did. So I left that one open to sort of try to tie all the other lyrics. Well, not all of them, but the main bunch of them, which they seem to cover that ground of state of emergency. Most of it is like, the silence, the lack of freedom of speech, moral crisis, culture wars. All these things are in a lot of the lyrics.
I was actually going to say that it seems like the state of emergency song kind of fractures off into the other songs, where breaking point is kind of towards the end of this state of emergency that we're in. And then you mentioned the other song, you mentioned social media and stuff like that. Disconnected seems to tie well into today's cancel culture and easily offended culture.
Absolutely. Yeah, I try not to be that blatant with it because I don't want to get in too much trouble. But yeah, I mean, disconnected. What is this disconnected with? Is disconnected from the truth, in my opinion. And I'm supposed to believe something that I've been brought up and I've been wired to believe is not true. So, but based on the way things are, I'm supposed to accept it as truth all of a sudden out of nowhere. We have like these thousands and thousands of years of books written on ethics, and through knowledge we've gained through centuries of living and dealing with one another on this planet, and now suddenly we're supposed to abandon all that's all wrong. But suddenly we're not, and if we don't agree with that, then we're there's something wrong with us. So that's what that song's about.
Groupthink. If you don't think like the group, you're nobody. You don't belong. Get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't even know if cancel's the word anymore. It's more like ostracized.
Absolutely. Final song on the album is Working Man, covered by Rush. From what I understand, Rush is the first power trio that you saw.
Yeah, I mean, I never got to see the Jimi Hendrix Experience or Cream. Who else is there? Blue Cheer I never saw. But but Rush I did, and I actually got the first. I mean, this is dating me a bit, but I got the Rush record before the other ones. There was an article in Cream about them, and it said they sounded like Sabbath and Zeppelin. What was it? Circus Magazine, one of those. And then I was like, well, this is up my alley. This is cool. So I got it, and I was just like, this is unbelievable. So Fly By Night I really liked, and the rest of them. But that record's more in line with the stoner rock, doom rock vibe of the early 70s that I do like without being too trendy. And I know that I never was attracted to the doom rock, stoner rock revolution. That's the hipster metal that we all know and either dislike or love. But I never felt a reason to try to copy that. But I do like that kind of stuff. So Blue Cheer, being a huge fan of them, I wanted to. When I was listening to records while prepping myself to write a new record, that Rush record came around as well as Zeppelin's. I'm always listening to Zeppelin and the early Sabbath records too. So when deciding, well, I'm going to do the last song on the record, we wanted to bookend with The Descent, and then that was like a narrative of this guy in crisis. So I was like, well, Working Man, this guy's not happy neither. So I like the lyric. I thought that, for the metal bands of that era, it was unusual because, like Kiss sort of celebrated life and like screwing around with chicks and partying. And so did like Montrose, and Nugent was just goofy, really. I mean, I love Nugent, but Rush was like, this is dark, like, this guy is just useless, so he feels useless. It was more like Sabbath, so which I like that glaze of that I think the records that really I feel are like that, definitely the Cream records, and then that first Rush record, and then Volume 4 I thought had that, and the first Sabbath record. Maybe Deep Purple in rock. So it's like, what are we going to pick? And then Rush being a trio was more attractive to the Prong trio concept. And so it's like, yeah, Working Man's the one. We're going to use that. And then it was like, it came together pretty quickly because I decided to use the Sabbath tuning of C sharp, down tune it, then add like this sort of like Metallica, like Ride the Lightning part in there in the middle. And then it was like, it came together really fast. So we were really happy with it. And if it didn't, we probably would have just trashed it or used it as a B-side. But no, everyone was into it, so it worked out pretty well.
So who is in the Prong trio now besides yourself?
Well, that's always changing because due to scheduling. The Griff McCarthy, who played drums on it, Prong was interfering with his cover band that he's in. So we had to we've had several guys come in and try to replace him. It's been difficult because we did a mad search trying to replace Art Cruz, who was playing with Lamb of God now, and he's unbelievable. So he finally found this kid Griff, and then he decided he'd rather stay at home and on Long Island and not tour. So or whatever. So we've had a couple of guys. Now we have two different drummers. My local guy is actually Griff's drum tech, Tyler Joseph, and then Wade Murph was Doyle's drummer. We used him on the last tour, and he nails all the parts. Like, it took a while to find a guy that can cut like Griff's parts and everything, so he's been great. And then it's either Jason Christopher on bass, if he's available, or Christopher Dean on bass, who plays with Nita Strauss as well. So I've been having to shuttle this around, and it's been a bit of a chore in itself to try to fit these guys into the Prong schedule.
Well, and it's tough to find a drummer today that isn't already in 8 other bands.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. Like these guys, the good guys, are busy, and Prong, I still playing with Danzig, so well, technically I'm still on tour now. Like I flew home for a couple of days. Now I go back, flying to Vegas in a little bit, and then we play tomorrow. But yeah, like I'm doing other stuff as well. But the way the Prong has been doing well, like we did a lot of touring in the last couple of years, so that's my plan. Like I was, like I said earlier, that I had some personal things. Like we have two more children, so I got two more kids, and that's been insane. So between that and playing in Danzig and then Prong, it's absolutely crazy.
Prong just did a little run out in Europe through the month of August, the European Summer Clashes tour, and you're going to be heading back in November. I know US isn't the best for your style of music, and Europe kind of eats it up. So obviously that's kind of where you want to take a show like this to.
Yeah, no, we go back to Europe with Life of Agony, and we did the first leg of it, and it was completely sold out. We did that in February last year, and now we're doing the second leg of that. They've kept going, and they've come to America, have done a bunch of stuff. Yeah, I mean, we're trying to get her to do an American tour. It's just finding the right thing, and or package or whatever. I know it's weird. Like even on with the Danzig tour, we have Behemoth opening up for Danzig, and they're like absolutely massive over in the rest of the world. And it's just weird to have them opening up for Danzig, playing the places we are. It's like their show and is this built for like arenas, and then like they're playing large clubs in America. So like I saw them in Europe, and I was like, what are they going to do when they come to America? But they've been able to scale it down. I mean, their show is just ridiculous. So I mean, it's like one of these Rammstein type of shows. So they were able to scale it down. But yeah, I mean, it's just so much bigger over there. Like the whole culture of metal is just massive over there compared to here. And unless you're the huge bands in America, right? Like yeah, of course we did this. We played with Metallica. We were asked by Metallica to do this outside parking lot show outside their show at MetLife, which was killer. It was great. And the Tyler played drums on with that show is great, and then Christopher Dean, and like I went into, of course we got into the show, and like I haven't seen Metallica in a long time. It's like, I mean, how huge they are. It's like, wait a minute, wait a second, this is a thrash band. I'm like, how could a thrash band be this huge? It's like you have your Testaments and Anthraxes, but this is Metallica. They're playing 2 sold out shows, 80,000 people a night in New York, and they're doing that all over the world pretty much. But it's thrash metal. It's like, but the people there, they don't even know that it's thrash metal. You know what I mean? Like half these people are like yeah, man, like they're like they have no clue beyond American audiences, especially. It's just they don't understand. They don't have like those roots with metal that much or something. I don't know what it is, but they're great when you're big. I mean, they'll come out. I mean, Ozzy had the same thing. Like like a lot of people don't even know like Ozzy Sabbath. Like they know the Ozzy, so the Ozzy solo records. So when they got when it was radio music. So there's a lot of like radio metal bands that are so big in America but where the rest of us, like we're just like nowhere, it's bizarre.
You do have one US date on October 20th in New Jersey for your album release party at Dingbat. So at least you can please people with that, but I'm not sure how many you could fit in that place.
But you never know. Like it is Jersey, but it's gonna be a wild night because I mean it should be great. I mean, we wanted to do that. We had to do something. We were initially supposed to be on. I thought it was a slam dunk. There was there was another tour like that fit right between the Danzig and the Prong November Life of Agony tour, and I was like, it would have been perfect. I'm not going to say who it was, but it was like right in the middle of that, and we got like, it was like, no, we don't got it. I'm like, what? I mean, so that screwed up our plans a lot. So we had to fit something in that time frame. It was initially going to be something else, and I'm disappointed that we didn't get this thing at the last minute, but it would have been cool.
I know you've mentioned several times that you're out playing with Danzig, the 35th anniversary of his first album. Is there going to be any new music from Danzig?
No, he's committed to not making any more records. I get it. I mean, like I mean, even like before his death, Eddie Van Halen, like they was posed that question, was like, was they going to do any more records? He's like, why? Like, why should I go crazy? And Prong is a different thing. I like to keep the legacy going. Like, I always feel that I can make another. I mean, I have been feeling like I could make a record and I could keep it going. Like some of the bands I admire, like Saxon, just never stop. Overkill. I mean, they just continue to put records out. I think that's awesome. Like so. I appreciate that. There's been too many holes in Prong where we weren't putting records out. So the fact that I can keep going is attractive. But I get it for Glenn. It's like, he sort of made his statement, and we're Prong is a legacy band, and so is Danzig. But I mean, Danzig is more of a legacy thing. It's hard to beat those first three Danzig records. It's just, you can't top them. Like they're just magical.
I agree. People are inclined to embrace the legacy portion of things anyway versus new music.
Yeah, they are.
It's a catch-22.
Well, unless I mean, I keep referring to these bands that I'm somewhat like intrigued with. It's not that, I mean, like they baffle me in a way, and that there's it seems like if there's a new Disturbed record, like people are excited about it. Like, they don't rely on the old ones. It's like, oh my God, there's a new Disturbed record. But if there's a new Danzig record, they don't really care. So why is that a difference? Because the main difference, I think, is radio play. And like when you hear that, like I was in LA at the time when, was I in LA? Maybe I was back. But even here, like I was hearing the new Disturbed record every time I was putting the radio on. I mean, it was ridiculous. They got so much radio play that eventually people were just like brainwashed into like the new Disturbed album. Yes, that's who that's how the power of advertising in this country is incredible. It's everyone's subjected to it. I mean, they're amazing at convincing people of things.
True. Well, speaking of legacies, and I know you don't keep track of albums and stuff like that, you're coming up on the 30th anniversary of Cleansing for Prong next year. Are you planning on doing anything special to honor that?
To be totally honest with you, the only way, I mean, that's what I said earlier, I wasn't on track of these things. Now that a few journalists have mentioned that, I'm like, maybe we should. So I think it would be a good idea. I think I could sing and play all those songs from start to finish. It would take a bit of practice because I haven't done it in a really long time. We used to play all the songs. So like, it wasn't like we didn't play all of them. I think when the record came out, we would do most of the songs from the album. I don't think there's a song we didn't do on there. So yeah, I could probably cut it. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to start thinking about that. Maybe we should do that.
A lot of people call that a landmark album for Prong. Do you think that is a fair assessment? Because you've had 13 albums, and I mean, we'll exclude the current album because the current album is fantastic. But
Thank you.
do you think that that's the pinnacle Prong album? Do you think there's another album that maybe, people missed and was the pinnacle for you?
No, that's the definitive Prong record. That's the most successful record. That recording process and production, the whole again, the whole process was positive. We didn't really have any any pitfalls or detours on it. It just ran. The writing process was great. It was a lot of excitement from the beginning, and it was the stars are aligned with certain records, and that's just the way it is. It's inexplicable, and that was one of those records where it seemed like the label and everybody involved were like, these songs are just, this is the one, and it's always been that way. I mean, a lot of guys in other bands are like, Tommy, may not be that popular, but at least you had that one song that just doesn't die, and that's Snap Your Finger, Snap Your Neck, and it's ridiculous. Like, people are still covering it. It's on like multiple playlists on Spotify. It's like, I'm happy about that, because without that song, without that album, I don't know where we'd be. I mean, like, there'd be a limited amount of interest, I think. So that is the pinnacle, definitive Prong album.
Well, Tommy, those are all the questions I have for you today. The new Prong album, State of Emergency, comes out October 6th through Steamhammer SPV. Like I said, fantastic album, and I want to thank you for taking the time to talk more about it with me today.
It was great. Thank you, George. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time as well.